you're supposed to do. All right, here we are. First recording of the year. It's a little early for that, but again, make sure you're washing your hands constantly so that you don't get any of these crazy things going around. We don't want the stomach bug. We don't want the flu. We don't want COVID. We don't want a cold. We don't want any of it. Yeah, no thank you. We don't want any of that. None of that. All right, so ecosystems. We've been moving on through ecosystems, and we're going to kind of go through this quickly. Now, obviously, if I play a video in class, right, which may happen here, I can't play that and record it at the same time. That's a copyright violation. But we've all seen this video. If you need to watch this video, then look up Study Jam's ecosystems, and you can watch that on your own. Ecosystems are the living and the non-living things. What are two different ways that I can say the living things and the non-living things? Biotic and abiotic factors, and here they are. In an ecosystem, we have two things, the living things, the biotic factors, and we have the abiotic factors, the non-living things. Living things, pretty easy to define if you do the short version. I highly recommend that. That would just say plants, animals, and bacteria. Otherwise, you'll be there forever listing everything. Abiotic, yes, I know that rocks aren't alive, but there's four main ones. Sun, soil, temperature, and water. Good? Sun, soil, temperature, and water. It would be just this device, and we've already watched that. Moving on. Skipping past that because you've already done it, and that one too. Producers, consumers, decomposers. Those are very, very important things that we see inside of an ecosystem. They are living. We know that producers are plants because they produce, they make their own food. They do that through a process called photosynthesis. We do not have to know all the things about that. You may see the word photosynthesis, though. That's how plants make their own food. Just something to think about. They typically are the beginning of the food chain, right? The sun gives the energy to the grass gives the energy to the gazelle gets eaten by the lion. Food chain. We'll get into food webs probably this week. Consumers. If you eat at all, you are a consumer. But I define consumers by what they eat, correct? Be ready for that. I think that actually could be a test question. How do you define consumers? You define them by what they eat. What does that mean, though? It's fantastic to say that, but what's that mean? That's right. So if you just eat plants, you're an herbivore. If you just eat meat, I see some hands, I'm glad y'all know this, carnivore to be on the quiz on Friday. If you eat both, you are an omnivore, right? You will see that this week, I promise. So herbivores, they only eat plants. Carnivores, they only eat meat. And then omnivores, like a bear or humans, most humans, they eat meat and they eat plants. I mean, I have a turkey salad today. There was strawberries on it. Omnivore and away. Skipping past those. Decomposers. Decomposers. We have all three of these in this room, right? There's bacteria. Can't see them. Not even with our tiny little microscope. Sorry, they're not that powerful. I don't see any flies, but I promise if we left some food out, the flies would show up. We do have mushrooms in here. All right, so we just looked at the mushrooms in the room. I promise you the worms are in the container. I just had to get like the soil very wet this morning, so I left that in the sink. I'm not going to carry that around. There's bacteria in here. I know there is because it's everywhere. So decomposers, but their niche is very special. What is the niche or the job of a decomposer? They break down dead things. They release nutrients, and a lot of times it does help the soil. You are correct. Decomposers. We've watched that before. All right, we looked at individuals, yes. One of a species. So we looked at one tiger. Then we saw one tiger that was in a house. We saw one tiger that was in a zoo. Then we saw a mama tiger with her babies. That would not be an individual. They were out in their natural habitat. So we have population, all the members in one area. So if we went outside today and just looked in the woods right behind the field there, we could look at the population of squirrels. Hopefully there's no population of tigers back there. But we could look at the population of squirrels and talk about them. And if there might be an individual, like if there was an albino squirrel when it was all white, we could study the individual and how that might change. Yes? Skipping that. And I know that's not unavailable. We've watched all these videos. Habitat is important. Habitat is the natural place Something you can have artificial habitats like the zoo. You can end up making your house a habitat if you want to. It's not the natural habitat for an animal, but the natural place that you might see something living and growing. We watch that mom, poor mom. Kids are driving her crazy. Community is all the living things in an area. The reason why you see this word community, it's not like there's going to be a ton of like community questions, but they might have the word community embedded in a question on the test. And if you don't know what that is and you get tripped up on the word community, you're going to miss the question when it's probably easy. So don't stress that one as much. Predator and prey. So in a few minutes, we're going to be doing what I think is a very fun activity. I'm going to give you blank cards. Last week you got like series 1 of the card game, right? Today you're getting blank cards and you're going to get dice and you're going to create your first vocabulary words. Predator and prey should definitely be on there. Like that's ones that I don't think that I'm going to like. I'm going to let you do what you want to do on those out of our vocabulary words for the past 2 weeks. But predator and prey pretty much needs to be on there. Those are important. Yes. Sleeved and in a deck box. That's fantastic. I don't think I've had anybody ever sleeved them before, but again, we can have as much fun with this card game as we want to as long as it doesn't get out of control and nobody gets upset or those kind of things. Everybody good with that? Awesome. Predator, an animal that hunts other animals for food. Prey, something that is hunted for food. How do I tell the difference between the two? Well, one of them is praying, please don't let that thing eat me. And that would be the prey. Prey does the praying that they don't want to get eaten. Predator is the thing that's doing the hunting. All right, we're going to move on from that. I'm going to talk about the word niche. I would probably put the word niche on there. I think if I dig through the zillions of cards that I have and that little thing over there, I bet there's 2 or 3 or 4 niches in there. And a niche is the role of an organism, the job of an organism. And every one of us in here can probably think of a different job that different animals have. Maybe we think about our favorite kind of animals. Maybe we think of a really annoying animal like that mole in my yard that keeps digging up all of my yard. I don't know what his niche is other than getting on my nerves. I don't know, but I'm sure they do something. I'm sure they have a job. I'm sure they have a role. Tearing up my yard is not his role. I'm sure they eat things underground, and there's something that they do that's beneficial. Spiders, as creepy as they are, they have a niche that they fill. They eat insects. If it weren't for spiders, I don't even think we'd be able to go outside and breathe. Spiders and bats, we'd go outside and just breathe in insects. It would be so heavy. So I'm kind of glad that they're out there to an extent. I'll get you in 1 second. Niche. Talked about that, and we watched that. I'm going to pause. Good news, bad news. If you look at the bottom of your vocabulary, you know that there's 4 new words. Symbiosis with commensalism, mutualism, parasitism. So that's 4 brand new words for us that are kind of tough. They're tough to say, and it is easy to get them confused. That's kind of the bad news. Good news. I think that that's really been lowered as far as like how much they expect us to know about these things. So we're not going to spend nearly as much time as I used to. So we're going to kind of like breeze through it, which is kind of nice. We're going to knock it out on the quiz. We're going to remember it. And then I don't know that we're going to really see a whole lot of that as we move on. So again, symbiosis. Most science words can be broken down into their Greek and Latin prefixes and suffixes. I do this often. Sim means together. Bio means life. So that means life together. There are a lot of things out there that live together, like this sea anemone and the clownfish. They actually have a very specific type of symbiosis, and we'll get into that as we move along. We're going to come back and watch these videos after I make this video for the people at home. Again, commensalism. Commensalism is a relationship between 2 organisms where only one of the organisms gets anything good or a benefit out of it. So look at that remora that lives under the shark. They kind of suction themselves to the bottom of the shark. We've seen those before in shark videos, yes? Does it help the shark? Does he hurt the shark? He does nothing for the shark. What benefit does the remora get, though, for attaching to the bottom of a shark? That's right. When the shark eats, and they're messy eaters, like some of us at lunch, they eat all the little scraps. Some of y'all need remoras attached to you, so when you go to lunch, the table don't look as awful as it does, because there's crumbs and stuff everywhere, right? Be some fat remoras. Some of y'all, I saw the table last Friday. It was bad. But again, it's not really helping the shark. It's not hurting the shark, but the remora, he certainly gets a good benefit. And I'll be honest with you, nobody's going to hunt a remora if he's hooked to the bottom of a shark, are they? Like, no, I'm going to leave him alone. You decide to swim away one day, I might eat you. But for right now, because you're attached to a shark, we're going to be good. All right. Mutualism. Mutualism is a relationship where both organisms get good stuff. Take the sea anemone and the clownfish. The sea anemone gives the clownfish a place to stay. The clownfish, in turn, protects the sea anemone very aggressively, by the way. We'll see that in our video. It protects the sea anemone from other things coming by that might try to eat it. The sea anemone stings things if you touch it. So some fish that might try to come and eat the clownfish get, they either get stung or they go away. Sometimes they die if they try to get near the clownfish because the sea anemone is protecting. So it's a very mutualistic. They both get good things. Parasitism. That is a relationship, right? I go out in the woods, I lay in my hammock, and a tick crawls on me and it bites me. We definitely have a relationship going on there, except the only thing getting anything good out of that is the tick. That is not good for me because, number one, it can be carrying diseases, right? That's not good. Number two, it's drinking my blood, which I would prefer to keep inside of me if at all possible. So again, parasitism is one organism gets good stuff, but it hurts the other thing. It's not commensalism, because in commensalism, the other organism doesn't get anything. It doesn't get helped or it doesn't get hurt. This one, in parasitism, the other organism gets hurt. The parasite hurts the host. If you have a tapeworm, there's a giant worm that lives in your intestines and it feeds off of the food that you eat. It takes away a lot of the energy and stuff that you should be digesting, and it does it for itself. So it's not a good relationship to have. Parasitism. One gets something good, the parasite gets good stuff, the host gets a negative reaction. We were talking about venom. Some of those, right? Some of those, if you've seen the movie, sometimes when they live in or on somebody in those movies, it's bad for the host. The host doesn't make it. All right, so just one more time for some of us in class, but mostly for my folks at home. Again, think of symbiosis almost kind of like when we were saying consumers. And we all got confused about what a consumer is. Symbiosis just means there's a relationship, and there's three kinds of relationships. First is commensalism. Commensalism is a relationship where one organism gets good stuff, but it does not help or hurt the other organism. So you might have the remora and the shark. You could have a bird living in a tree. Next is mutualism. Mutualism is mutualistic. It is good for both of them. They both get a positive thing out of that. So your sea anemone protects the clownfish, and the clownfish protects the sea anemone. They both get something good out of that. The last one was parasitism. That means one thing, the parasite gets good stuff because it gets to drink your blood in this instance. The bad thing is it hurts the host. It hurts the host. So those are those three. I'm going to pause here, and I always get yelled at if I don't say smash the like button and subscribe. All right? That's what you got to do on a YouTube channel. All right.